Versatile BASF soybean crop protection portfolio. Zetavo soybean seed, stacked in your favor. Zetavo from MS Technologies, distributed exclusively by BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
At AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
I have 60 rounds of freedom, of course, with me at all times. And I'm even better today since, Master Sergeant Terry Mink is here. Or no, I think it was
Lieutenant.
General Mink.
Lieutenant.
Was it? Is that what it was?
I was lieutenant.
You were a lieutenant?
I was.
In the Navy, though, so that made you a captain.
So, yeah, I was a lieutenant.
I mean, they made all you guys out of some kind of medical school, an honorary officer, and most of you couldn't find your butt with both hands in a road map, but you wore the uniform pretty well.
Why would we want that? I'm still looking for my sword. I should have had a sword. Don't they give swords to Navy officers? I never got a sword.
Not every Navy officer, Terry.
You had to be qualified?
I think you had to have the remote possibility of actually being in combat. So.
Oh. Well,
and most sailors do, and most officers do, but you were in the medical corps.
I did get between a irate husband and a wife one time. Does that count?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't really think it does. And by the way, I've gotten in between husbands and wives.
For different reasons.
For different reasons. By the way, we're on StreamYard today, so you can see us audio and video, both at my Facebook page, Michael Devine, or the radio station Facebook page, AM 1400 KBFT, or at the Alpha Media website, Alpha Media Fort Dodge website.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
do I have to be your friend on your Facebook page in order to watch it?
I don't think so. I think you are, though, and you have been for many years. I
don't know. I can't remember. I got like 50 friends, so I'm pretty popular.
Yeah, but you're pretty sneaky. You seem to get around. You're a Facebook stalker, I think.
Well, I do like
cyber stalker.
I enjoy. I was actually on Facebook the other day watching KCCI and the comments about Fort Dodge, because as you know, we've had some issues here in town for some reason or another. The population's getting a little gun stab crazy out there, and
you think so?
Well, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what's going on. It's young kids. I mean,
because guys are shooting at each other and the brass monkey, that's nothing to get excited about. Yep. That's just Fort Dodge, man.
Young man, two blocks from my office the other night, got one in the shoulder, 2 cars going by and shooting at each other, and shows up at the hospital, and it's uncalled for. I mean, we're in a kind of a. You're just indignant about it, aren't you? Well, it's a caring, compassionate time of the year, and we shouldn't be out there creating problems, and I don't understand the logic behind that. I mean, we start working with these kids in school, and Charles has got that program, the early intervention project over there.
Not working out, huh?
Well, it's just frustrating because you'd think eventually, and I think it's probably boiling down to the fact that it goes back to the families. A lot of these kids don't have.
You think? Yeah.
They don't have a father figure, and Jesse Ulrich told me one time, before he left to go to Iowa Central, but he said that 40% of the kids in elementary school come from a single parent household.
40%.
40%. Yeah. So it's tough.
That doesn't surprise me. The breakdown of the family unit.
If it ever was existent,
Well, I think it was. I think a stable mother-father home was in existence for
back in the 50s.
Yeah. Well, were your parents divorced?
No.
Mine were.
No.
Of course, I was 26, so I didn't really care. And they'd been fighting tooth and nail for 10 or 15 years by that time.
Yeah.
So
well,
I didn't really care.
It's just really frustrating. I mean, what do? Do you throw more police officers out there? I don't think that's going to be the answer. Do you intervene? The church used to be part of everybody's life and is not that important anymore. And I don't know what you do. I mean, we got to get these kids at an early age and convince them that there's better ways to work through conflict. And, as well as I do, people conflict with you all the time, but you never come to blows and you don't pull a gun out, to
not recently.
Yeah. I mean, it's embarrassing for the community. And like I said, KCCI put a little thing on there, and they're talking about the problems that we're having in Fort Dodge. And then, their next report's a 2-year-old that gets shot in Des Moines. So, I mean, we're not immune to, nobody's immune.
Des Moines, the city proper is about 250,000, and the area is 335,000 or something like that. So you with that many people, you'd have to expect this sort of thing. But we're a little town, but Fort Dodge has always have kind of a tough guy image in the surrounding area. I know when my son would go to visit his relatives up in Pocahontas County, and they'd go they seem to find it fascinating that he lived actually in Fort Dodge, where all the trouble happened all the time. Of course, not much happened in a little farm town of 700 or whatever.
Yeah,
Not much.
highlight of the day is a kid stealing a Snickers out of the Casey's.
It's not a bad way to live, you know,
Well, you
not
know,
a
and
bad way to live.
And I wish, I wish there was an easy answer to this. We thought, maybe possibly the early intervention at the schools, having the school resource officers over there might slow down some of this, problems that we have. But it seems like it's the same kids that are in trouble all the time. They get caught. And I mean, Roger Porter told me that, it's the same 6 kids, it seems like, in our neighborhood. Down on 4th Avenue South and 15th Street. We've had all kinds of problems down there by Domino's. And, nobody.
Domino's?
Yeah, well, it's the alleyway behind there. I mean, they've had shootings down there.
Really?
Yeah. It's just been a problem. A guy was shot sitting on his porch on 15th Street a couple summers ago. And it's the same group of kids.
Well, that's a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. But I mean, these
Well,
kids
you
are
may
growing up.
recall it just last year, this house north of us.
Yep.
There was a drive-by at 10 o'clock in the morning, like on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Nobody was caught. Nobody said anything.
Nobody sees anything.
Nobody sees anything. I mean, bright sunny day. Some guy comes along, pumps a few bullets into the car and into the house.
Yeah.
And I think it happened again a short time after that.
Well, look at the robbery, 8 o'clock in the morning up there at the Clark Station, up there on 22nd and 2nd Avenue South or North. And I mean, 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, holy mackerel. I mean, if I didn't have a job, I wouldn't be awake at 8 o'clock to go rob a place. I don't know what they're thinking, but
if we're really serious, we have to have some cooperation.
absolutely.
I mean, we can't have this culture of non-cooperation with the police because they're enemy, because they're white. I mean, that's racist at its core. Frankly, it is. It's racism on people who tell us they're oppressed sometimes. But I'll tell you, criminals are not the oppressed. People who are shooting up the place are not the impressed.
Yeah. But again, it's bad for the community. It's bad, for family structures. It's bad for everybody.
I'm going to run this by you.
Okay.
Do you think the police department could do more? Or if the police did decide to focus on problem areas and even problem individuals and families and started making some arrests, would there be a huge cry that the police were then racist?
Yes.
Yes, there would be.
Yeah.
So why does anybody pay attention to that? I mean, the Democratic Party, as it exists in Fort Dodge today, would come unglued, and there would be experts weighing in on the racist white police force, and on and on and on. Like it or not, some of these problems have a racial component.
Well, some of them do, but not all.
Not all of them.
I can remember, a few years ago, we had police officers sitting around the clock up on North 9th Street because we had a lot of problems up there with one house in particular.
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, the SWAT people came in there one time, cleaned the house out, and 2 weeks later, they're back there again. It's the same problem. Over
Send
and
them in
over
again.
Yep. And the cops sat there and sat there and sat there. But is that a good use of resources? I mean, did it stop crimes from happening knowing that a police officer was there? Maybe. Is it a good use to have a police officer sitting still when he could be out patrolling the street when we don't have, probably as many police as what we need? We should, look at bumping that number up. But, we bring that up every budget season. I mean, Roger would love to have, 3 to 6 more people, but every time you bring an officer in, it's $100,000, and that's benefits and training and, salary for them. And then plus we're not getting the applicants that we used to get. And
applicants for
the police department.
Why is that?
Well, it's the whole stigma. I mean, police officers, it's a very tough profession,
Yeah, it is.
They're less likely to be liked than radio hosts. It's just it's
not by me. I've always respected police officers.
That's just it. I mean, when you need them, you hope that they're there.
That's right.
We're having a hard time filling spots. We had a little migration over to the sheriff's department for unknown reasons. We lost some.
They pay more. The county pays more with better
don't.
benefits.
I don't think they do. I don't think that was it. I think there were some issues there that we're still looking for the answer to it. But we're getting some young people in, but unfortunately, we're not getting the diversity that we want, and we're not getting the numbers that we want. Civil service exam.
Why don't we just be comfortable with police officers? Why is diversity so important?
Well, I think.
Oh, I know.
Well, again,
let me raise my hand in the back of the room. I know the answer to this question because I've heard it 10,000 times.
It's a slippery slope, but
Slippery slope.
Yeah,
you're breaking out all the cliches.
Yeah, I got to. I'm trying not to get in trouble, and you know, I'm afraid we're going to say something here that might be misinterpreted. But basically, what I'm saying is that
how can that be?
Because we're talking, and social media is vicious.
Who cares?
But again, we need police officers. We need candidates. And
Social
Janice
media.
Valentine's on the Civil Service Board.
Is she?
Yep, and she can tell you. I mean, it's very, very difficult to get qualified, applicants anymore. It's difficult. The fire department, not quite as bad, but the police department, I think there's a certain stigma associated with that, and I think it kind of goes in the last last year or so with the George Floyd thing up in Minneapolis.
That's true.
The
That was
police
grotesque.
the police came out looking badly, but that's not our police department.
No.
We
And
don't-
by the way, what we've lost is individuality. I mean, I didn't look at that horrible video of George Floyd and that pig, Derek Chauvin, and say that's all cops.
Yeah.
I didn't think that for a single second. I thought that cop ought to go to prison, and that's where he is.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Well,
that was a brutal murder. It really was.
I was in Boston a couple weeks ago, for a meeting, and I got lost kind of down by the garden. I was at a hockey game, and I didn't know how to get back to my hotel room, and it was too far for an old man to walk. So, I don't go looking for a person standing on the street. I went up to a Boston cop, and there's stories and books written about Boston cops.
There are. I wasn't unaware of that.
Was it Wambaugh?
Joseph Wambaugh. That was Los Angeles.
Oh, no. There was somebody that wrote about the Boston cops. Well, anyway, the perception there is that they're tough Irishmen, which I know you are, and I'm partially. But, they were very nice to me, treated me very nicely and pointed me where I needed to go. And, they were very, just pleasant and easy to deal with. And that's the way the police officer should be looked at. I think
right.
A lot of these young kids are growing up and they fear police department, and that's why we have the school resource officers to kind of smooth that, fear of authority away a little bit. So,
well, the problem here in Fort Dodge is we're a poor town, and young people growing up in broken homes don't see any hope, and then they start not caring. They start not caring what happens to them, and that is at the root of every problem we have with crime in this city. And nobody will step up and start addressing it.
Yeah. And again,
programs, come on, give me a break.
We do everything we can to intervene, but it's very, very difficult. And again, I don't know if there's an easy answer. Do you throw more police officers at it? Do you throw more social workers at it? We already have
you throw more parents at it.
Well, the parents would be beneficial, but the parents don't seem to care sometimes. So a lot of times grandma is the one that's taking care of the flock.
Because there's no hope, Terry. You see, there was one of our political parties has decided that climate change and transgender rights and teaching critical race theory in schools is far more important than just simple poverty and the disintegration of the family at the basic core level of our problem. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't have all the answers, but for me,
yes, you do.
Yeah,
well, don't start being humble with me now. I've known you a long time. You're not humble.
You look back over the years and you look at the way the education system has changed. Everybody nowadays wants to grow up and they want to be a professional athlete, and that's not the way to go. You take away our music programs, you take away our art programs, you take away wood shop, you take away mechanics, and you make them difficult to get on the high school and junior high, middle school level. And all of a sudden you've got kids that don't have any direction or skills when they get out of school. They don't know what to do. They're flounder. They get out and they're lost. The community college is a great asset for the community, but we've got to get the kids through high school first. And
I've always thought that community college should be recognized as something the state provided. The state and the counties provided. I've said this, I don't know how many times on the air. 100 years ago, we realized we had to have an educated population to move forward. Yeah. So we demanded a high school degree. That transformed our society in ways that we can't even measure to this day. Here we are 100 years later, and we're still singing that same old song. No. It's baloney. And I'll put this on the Republicans. They are so resistant to the idea. They're so locked into that, oh, God, we can't have anything free because the people will get weak and not be willing to work for anything. Because that's the real struggle always. Yeah. That's to keep people desperate and working for what you want them to.
When I graduated,
See, I'm the only one in this town that talks this way
I know.
about basic worker rights.
we're going to miss you when you're gone.
I know.
But back
Are
when
you leaving?
No, it could be. It could be. Just extend your car warranty and you can be over that. But anyway,
God.
I mean,
I started getting junk mail from these places. I want to answer the phone, so they started. We've noticed that your car.
I just got a text message from Nancy Pelosi asking me to send her money. Yeah,
really.
When I graduated from high school back in the dark ages, we opened up the center when the people are graduating, and about 30% of our kids went into the military, and that's not really a viable option. It doesn't seem like anymore.
I think we have a different opinion here. AM 1400 KVFT. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Michael Devine, Big Ed from Georgia. I want to say, the doctor of truth, the truth doctor, keeping America as straight as he can.
That's right, buddy. But I wanted you to call at 310, Ed. Are you just calling to promo your appearance? Because I think that's good. Can you call me back at 310? My time, of course. 410 your time there in Georgia, wherever you're
Oh, I made a mistake.
That's okay. It happens when you get to be an older man, Ed. I know.
It does.
I'm an older man.
I'll call you back at 410 your time.
All right. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
All right. Bye-bye. This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for it. I still don't think he got it right. He said 410 my time. I'm supposed to have some supervisors over here, but none of them will answer my text.
Well,
of course, I didn't include Supervisor Nikki Conrad.
Yeah, I should have. Nick Carlson, Bob
Oh,
Thode.
Carlson is useless. The supervisor I can get in here is Bob Singer, but he's not on the board anymore.
Did you ask him where that convention center is that he promised? When he lost the election against Dode, he said now he's going to start working on a convention center. He said that on your show.
I believe that Dan Payne, the great Dan Payne, and I mean that sincerely, the great Dan Payne, that was one of his projects, and Payne and Singer were pretty good friends from what I understand. They shared office space together, and I had them both on my show one time for a whole hour.
You accomplished nothing.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't think I offered 2 words because they just would have batted the ball back at each other on and on and on.
Yeah, I'm
that was great.
Going to a CVB meeting right after the show here today. So
Convention
Visitor Bureau.
Do you practice optometry or not?
No, yesterday I had Main Street meeting. Today I got CVB meetings.
So you retired or what?
No, I am not actually. I'm still working. It's just I'm not accomplishing much. Actually, I was actually kicked off the CVB meeting, but that's a story for
kicked off the CVB meeting.
Yeah, that was a little backroom negotiating. I think it was.
What happened, Terry? Come on, you can't hardly wait to tell us.
I think.
Who's the evil one in this scenario? Bemrick, Fierks, both of them?
One of the founding fathers, I think, got upset with some of my comments. So you haven't heard that word for a while.
Founding fathers of Fort Dodge? You mean Williams, Duncombe? Who?
No,
not that far back.
Don't you remember the founding father issue? The secret society that's running the Illuminati that's running Fort Dodge behind the screens.
I thought they were running the country, but you're telling me it was just Fort Dodge?
There's a local group. There's a local group that people have accused of kind of operating behind the scenes.
Terry, I want to tell you something.
It's
really
true.
Well, yes. There's always a group of very wealthy families that run almost every town. Down in Cedar Rapids, it's 7 families, and not much happens there unless they say it does. And I'm assuming the same thing happens here.
No,
as a matter of fact, I have stories to that effect. Yeah.
So case closed.
Case closed.
So you agree with me? There you go.
I do. I don't know if you're agreeing with me.
No, not necessarily. I'm trying to move on before I say something because I have very thin skin and sometimes it doesn't take much to penetrate it. But
you're just shaking in your boots when you're on the show half the time. What's going to be said?
That's right. Well, I noticed you don't have a bunch of papers in front of you. I always show up with papers.
You always show up with a lot of
things.
I
make notes because I realize that sometimes our conversation will lag, and the next thing you know, you're going to be talking about Hillary, and that doesn't affect
Hillary.
me.
No,
it doesn't affect.
But
me.
I know that you want to see Nancy Pelosi naked, don't
No,
you? Come on, man.
No, I'm trying to figure out how to block this number from calling me over again. Jeez, I waste a lot of time with that.
All right.
But anyway, so, I think the education system's changed. The lack of church in the families, has changed quite a bit. The fact that daddy's going away and maybe not part of the raising the families is a big problem.
Maybe
And-
mommy can't remember daddy.
Well, that could be an issue too. But again, they come to us and they say, what are you going to do about this? Well, it's hard to address social issues like that from the podium. I mean, it's very difficult to come up with a solution. And I mean, we work with the school district. We work with Charles and his program.
What's Charles's program over there?
It's the youth intervention program.
Youth intervention. And what
It's the
what is
Department
that?
of-
What does youth intervention do?
Well,
at the
they've got
school?
mentors. They basically, if a child gets in trouble, and the theory is
Mentors?
Well, there's people that intervene between a criminal charge and
Are these people
infraction.
with some sort of training, or
Well, yes, they are trained. They have some training. We went through that. We had a workshop. I know you weren't there because you don't show up for our council meetings, but there was a workshop.
well, I'm going to start.
a couple. What was it about?
I'm
a month
ticked
ago.
at the Messenger. I'm really
Month
ticked
ago.
at it.
They're the official paper of the council.
The official paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Bemrick and Fierick, I'm ticked off about it. Really.
I heard you last week kind of ratting about them, and then I went.
No, you stirred me up,
I know.
and then I started ranting.
When I was-
I heard you. It's because you were in the room.
No, then you were every time you got on there, you said something about the news report and the farm report, and you just.
Oh,
none of
yeah,
this-
the messenger, yeah. Well, they bug us over here. They say, "Well, you reported this, and it came from our newspaper." It's city business. Shut up. I think they were even complaining that we were reading the Fort Dodge Messenger.
No.
Well, it's an easy read.
Yeah, it doesn't take long some days.
It really doesn't.
But anyway, I mean, the problem's there, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, and I'm sure Roger's getting phone calls down at the police department. But again, it's a multifaceted problem, and I mean, you need everything from mental health to social work to police officers. We've got mental health people that will respond to a crisis if the police department calls them. We don't have them riding in the cars, but they're accessible and it's a simple phone call away. So it's just tough. I mean, we got a lot of families in the community that need a lot of help, and their kids are paying the price.
Maybe I should have Nikki Conrad on just to see her feelings or understand her thoughts on this very situation, because she obviously thinks differently than you and I. But I have always believed you and I came from a time when the reason and dialogue were important things. It's not anymore, thanks to social media. I'm on social media more than I should be, but I used to really think it was a great thing, but I don't anymore. I think it's a very destructive thing. And Nikki's younger than you and I are by quite a ways, and maybe I could find
Younger than you by quite a ways. Younger
Yeah.
than me by just a few days.
I think I'm 6 weeks older than you, aren't I?
No, you're like 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh, well, there we go. Dr. Terry Mankey is our guest. We'll be back.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at jmike1400.
And we're broadcasting live in the Blue Ribbon Pelham Water Studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.fdwater.com. It's 2:35.
Upper Des Moines Opportunity is now taking applications for Alpha Media's Bikes for Tykes event, sponsored by W&H Co-op and R&J Material
here in Fort Dodge. For any questions and to RSVP, please call 576-7128.
Michael Devine, standing for Medicare and Social Security. After a lifetime of work, you deserve it. AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, one thing the Democratic Party could do is maybe stop taxing Social Security benefits. I mean,
that would help.
That would help. But somehow that never comes into the conversation. I mean, we must honor our weirdos. We must accept completely those who believe they really are unicorns. By the way, one unicorn or buffalo head went to prison just today, but he was on the other side. That QAnon shaman guy from Phoenix.
I saw that. That guy was from Iowa, wasn't he?
No. There was one guy from Iowa. He's the one that chased the cop up the stairs.
Oh, okay.
But he's now regretting that.
I can't keep track of all these people.
I mean, who the hell ever believed?
Well, there's room at top for you now. Now that the shaman's in jail, maybe you could move into his spot.
No,
you look good in a headdress and some paint on your face.
I'm not interested in being a shaman. There's a spiritual quality to that. And I just like to be, absolute ruler.
Your Catholic upbringing is offensive that you think about shaman?
No. I just, I don't know if shamans believe in celibacy or not. The Catholic Church certainly does, and they're always denying themselves this, that, or the other damn thing. And I'm not much for denying myself anything.
I thought you embraced that. But
I have embraced it, Terry.
Yeah. So anyway, we do have a meeting on Monday night, the 22nd,
That's great.
Before Thanksgiving. They got a couple things that we're going to be talking about. The fire department, we're going to add on to the north, that additional office space over there. The EMS coordinator, Terry Evans, has been working out of a closet, I think, for the last couple of years. It gets a little tight because we've got more personnel, more people over there. So they're adding on to the north between the building and the sidewalk there. I assume there's enough room there without a zoning violation. Hopefully they check that out before they start digging. But the initial bid came in a little high, and so we had to rearrange a couple things and coordinate it. And so now on Monday, we're going to be looking at a public hearing. About $1.85 million has been designated. Probably not all of it will be used. Usually when they look at those financial things, they inflate it a little bit for a variety of reasons, usually for change orders and things like that. But the ask is always more than what we get. So hopefully you'll see some construction there next spring. It's been delayed a little bit as expected because of the costs. And I think the fire station, this will probably be the last phase over there for a while. We've got a pretty safe and very efficient fire building right now. And it's, I think, a nice addition. I don't know where else they would add to other than going up because they've kind of run out of space. Although there is a really nice building right across the street to the east that they could buy for just a song, a song and a dance, level it and make it into a parking lot if they wanted to. But that would be my office, in case you're wondering. The other public hearing on Monday night is going to be looking at some downtown items. We had a request to look at the window tints downtown. In years past, the retail stores always like clear windows because you could see the merchandise.
Yeah.
You could stroll down the street with your babe and, look at the window and
babe
with your babe.
That's a pretty retro term, offensive to women everywhere. You should apologize immediately for being a white male oppressor, you pig.
Well, okay.
I know all the language.
Well,
Lydia will slap the hell right out of you.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. It's probably one of the many things that I've done to offend her today and other days. But anyway, we met with the planning people a couple of weeks ago and looked at different shades of window tints that we found acceptable. I hurt my neck because I just kept shrugging all the time. I said, I really don't care. To me,
that injured your neck. You really are old.
Moving around a little bit. Yeah. And there's also some, we're trying to get some uniform fencing downtown. So we apparently have to rewrite some ordinances to look at fencing and window tints downtown. So I think you're going to see some changes. But again, retail is different now. A lot of people, for energy reasons, they like to block the sun out a little bit. And also if it's used as storage instead of a...
For energy reasons, they want to block the sun.
Yeah. Window tint, it tones the sun down so it doesn't get hot. If you got a west-facing window in Fort Dodge, you just fry on the inside. It's bad. Trust me.
I never noticed.
Oh, well, that's because you never come out of your little shell. Maybe you should get out and move around town a little bit.
I think if you I think if you ask people, you'd see I was around town.
Yeah.
I'm just not at the real cool places you are, like all these damn meetings you just mentioned.
Yeah. I gotta get back to the office to see my 2 people and then go to my meeting.
2 people.
Yeah. Well, I got another meeting, so. The other thing we got coming up, we've working with the county on their nature center. They had to declare the area down there where the nature center is going to be down on the river. They had to declare that an urban renewal process in order to utilize TIF money for it. The county's got, I think, financing in place for the nature center, but they're going to use TIF money from the wind turbines, I believe is where most of that's coming from. So that is moving forward. The plans are being drawn up. I think the permitting is the next process. They'll probably have to dig up a couple places, make sure there's not any Indian artifacts down there. That held us up a little bit at the water plant a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
They dug it down and they found there was a former tile or clay manufacturing site up by the water plant. And they had to go in, and actually the state historical preservation people and the Indian tribes had to sign off on it.
Well, wait, what did they find?
Fragments,
Fragments of what? Bone?
No, just clay. And they did that too when they
clay.
When they dug down there. And,
well, we used to have clay tiles.
Yeah, and that's what they used to make it. So they wanted to make sure it wasn't historical. You don't want to mess.
They thought perhaps the clay pottery, or it was
something from Indian artifacts.
We had to slow the whole thing down on a suspicion.
All the time.
Because that sounds like farm tile to me. Old 1920s farm tile.
Yeah, probably what they made. Well, they did that too down on was a well that Woodruff was digging, I think, down in the Volunteer Park area right alongside the Kenyon Road Bridge. They were digging there and they found a coal chute. Apparently there was a coal mine down there in that area, and so that created some problems too with the historical people. Even Olson Park, when we moved the deer enclosure at Olson Park, we had talked about moving some of the trees out of the way in order to get the fencing up in the right place and get the parking where we wanted it. And the state historical people came in and said that the trees were considered historical and we couldn't remove them. Same thing at the little dam, or the big dam, hydroelectric dam. That's why the remnants of the former powerhouse are still there, is because the state historical people determined that was, we had to keep part of it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. So. AM 1400 KVFT, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. I was going to ask Mr. Menke over where that nature center is going to be at down at the end of Citadel.
Right.
Do you have to have the DNR and FEMA authorize any buildings over because of that being in the floodplain?
Yep, that's been looked at. They've FEMA's come in, and with removal of the dam, the floodplain was actually altered a little bit. So that particular area is not in the floodplain. I think it's a couple feet above it. So they had FEMA come in. Trust me, all the permits, DNR permits, everybody's looked at it. And it's the same thing with our work that we're doing at the Little Dam with putting some jetties down there. The engineers got all that done, and now it's got to go in front of the DNR and FEMA in order to have them sign off on it too. So they don't move until they get all those T's crossed and the I's dotted. So
has the floodplain that the DNR has established, has that changed? That's the reason you're able to do it down there then?
Yep, that's part of the reason. They came in and they did another study, I think, and redrew the lines. It used to be that the floodplain was 6 inches taller than what the base or the floor of the power plant was at the hydroelectric dam. But then with the removal of the dams, that floodplain dropped a little bit. So they were able to come in and redo it. So it's not going to be an issue.
Okay. Does that apply all the way up for like Green Addition and Scenic Valley and Riverdale Addition then?
I would assume that if, there's construction up there, they would probably have to come in and reevaluate it. I think they just looked at what they needed to, and that was the Central River District. So I would imagine that those other areas could be reevaluated now that the dams are out if somebody asked them to do it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
No problem.
Thank you for the call, sir. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Absolutely. If you'd like to join the conversation that Dr. Menke and I are having, it's 515-955-1400. That's 515-955-1400. Or you can hit me up on Twitter at JMike1400. By the way, we're on Facebook right now on AM 1400 KVFD, video and audio. Also, my private Facebook page, Michael Devine. And at the Alpha Media Fort Dodge website. Just check it out. We're just fascinating guys, I'll tell you. We are.
Yeah, world's fascinating. The mall did announce, as you talked about with David yesterday, the couple new stores coming in the little strip mall over there. I can tell you that I was as surprised as everybody else at what they announced. The teriyaki restaurant, I can understand. Laundromat, I'm a little perplexed about that. I'm sure it will be a very nice laundromat. There might be a need for it because the laundromat on Fifth South, the city bought that. Friskies wanted some additional room because they have to bring those cranes in when they do the work on their towers over there, their cooling towers, and they needed the space over there. And so the city bought that laundromat. The ground is contaminated because it is the former laundromat. And so it cannot be rebuilt on. So it will be a parking lot with they check, on a regular basis. They got the little sensors in the ground that check for that stuff. But Friskies will pay rent on that property, and the rent's going to offset the cost and pay us back for the demolition. So it's going to be a wash. So there is going to be one less laundromat in town, which I guess could justify bringing in another laundromat. But again, it's a private business decision to bring them in, and I hope that
these are private operators.
Yeah, they're private operators, and so they will be working with.
I find it an interesting choice they put it out there. You don't usually see a laundromat in a shopping area.
Yeah, and that's true. And like I said, we weren't involved with that. We do have the retail coach hired that goes out and looks for opportunities for retail people to come to Fort Dodge, and I know they're actively recruiting businesses to come here. And I think over the next few months, we're going to see a lot of additional reports of businesses that are coming in. They're continuing to work out there. There'll be a little bit more demolition very shortly, and they're putting footings down to put the walls up on that north end of the mall that was knocked down. So you're going to see, I think, a little bit more work yet this fall.
Remember what that laundromat by Friskies was when it first opened? Were you here by that
was
time?
That a pizza place at one time?
No, it was a Sambo's restaurant.
Oh,
remember Sambo's
yeah,
restaurant?
I remember that when I first came here. Yeah.
Sambo's went out because they decided that a restaurant featuring a chubby little black kid as part of their logo, and the whole Sambo's thing in general was horribly racist. Even I, at the time, thought it was horribly racist. I kept thinking to myself, I never went to a Sambo's restaurant for that reason. I never stopped out there. I never did. I just thought that's grotesque.
Well, I don't go to BP gas stations anymore.
Why?
Ever since they leaked all that oil in the Gulf, I got mad at them. It took them so long to shut down that leak in the Gulf. Don't you remember that?
I do.
Five
That's
years
been,
ago. Yeah,
it's been longer than that. Yeah.
Whatever. I'm still mad at them.
What do you think? They were screwing around and not getting it capped intentionally, or what?
Yeah, I think big business was putting the pressure on the little man. It was just dumping pollution.
Of what benefit would that be to BP to have a broken oil line?
Absolutely none. I just held a grudge. So
that makes sense. Are you in touch with your feminine side today, or what's going on?
Not today. No. We also we hired Ehlers Architects, who's done a lot of work at City Hall. We're moving into, I think, is going to be the last phase of City Hall remodeling in 2006 that they had a big meeting and decided to keep City Hall and restore it rather than rebuild a new one. And we spent a lot of money with the steps, the air conditioning, what else we done? We remodeled David's offices and Jeff's offices and the engineering office. And so we've got a lot of work that's been done in City Hall, and they're going to continue to work in the upper second floor on the east end. They're redoing that now as be our last, hopefully our last remodel. And Terry Aller's group will be looking at that, and we're going to see 2009, according to Councilman Flattery, is when they started. He would know because he's old and he's been on the council.
Dave?
Yeah.
Seems pretty youthful.
He's younger than us.
Did you know that Sambo's restaurant in 1979 had 1,117 restaurants? And they all disappeared pretty fast. Well, and I was wrong in the logo. It didn't have a chubby little black kid. It had some goofy kid. I don't know. But yeah, it was horribly racist, whoever came up with that concept.
Yeah,
wow.
Right. But we've moved on beyond that.
Thank God.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to continue to work. The second floor will be done next, and up on the east end. I think the west end was done last year, and they're slowly moving people around. I don't know if there's any empty offices. There might be one in City Hall, but it's pretty nice, pretty secure. You have to have access to the cards to get in. I keep forgetting mine in the truck and have to pound on the door. You know, they're very slow at getting up and getting me in sometimes, but usually it's not too much of a problem. So we've got that covered. The fire station, City Hall's being done, the little dam area with the permitting's being done. Central River District is moving forward. There'll be some dirt work done down there once the little dam gets its permitting done. Then we'll start working with some dirt work just south of where the nature center is going to go. Nature center should they keep pushing that back, but I think if you get a supervisor in here, which if you hadn't offended all of them, they'd be here. But
I haven't offended Dinkle, I can tell you that.
Well, that's because you have breakfast with them, but it's just you know.
Oh, is that the reason?
Yeah, that's it.
You always have these snappy comebacks that mean absolutely nothing. Oh, you have breakfast with him.
Yeah.
Not just him. There's a group of guys that meet Saturdays.
Good. But downtown camera systems moving forward. I don't know if it captured that little incident at the Brass Monkey that you alluded to earlier, but there is a camera down there in that area. And so the camera system is, I think, is supposed to be done here in another week or two, and then it will all be linked, and then hopefully it'll be a little bit more safer downtown.
Well, I think the Brass Monkey incident happened inside the building, didn't it?
It kind of spilled outside. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Weren't you?
No, I wasn't there. So anyway,
you're nowhere where meat or booze is served. I don't get it.
Why would I be? Yeah. So anyway, that's about it. Everything's moving forward. You know, the bridge work will start in the spring. Veterans Bridge, Highland Park Bridge. A lot of bridge work next year. So
that's a lot of bridge work.
A lot of bridge work.
Is that because of the savior Joe Biden and his?
No, actually, that's an interesting point. Is what are we going to get? You know, and it's
what are we going to get? Yeah, my hands out.
Infrastructure, broadband. I mean, all these things we're talking about. We've already started the wheels going on our local processes by borrowing the money, and it's possible that we wouldn't have to have as much money for broadband if we can get some from the Fed. So I'm sure that David and Ryan are working on that, and we'll probably see some requests made for that funding to come back to Fort Dodge, so the users don't have to pay it.
You know, the price of fuel has gone up by some estimates 62% just since Smoking Joe has been in office. He thinks that's a good thing.
Well, I'm not sure you can blame him for all that, but
oh, yes, we can.
Well, you can. Yeah, you can.
Why? Who else would you blame? We were energy insufficient just last year.
Well,
I know Trump. We hate him because he grabs things. And
why do electrical rates go up?
Why do electrical rates go up?
And why is everything going up? Why is the cost of your medicine going up?
You want to explain again why the water bill keeps going up?
I can tell you that because of chemical use, we had to increase the use of chemicals and electrical costs. And so actually, I sent a message off to Chad just a little while ago because we're looking at a new administrative building down at the wastewater treatment plant. And to me, it makes sense to plan to incorporate solar into that to cut back on some of the electricity use. It's something we probably should have looked at the water treatment plant. That solar is becoming more and more prevalent. As you know, we've got 1,200 acres of it just northeast of town up in Banklaw's territory.
Right.
So that's, Iowa is very energy independent. We should be fairly stable in our energy use with the solar and with the wind power here in the town and in the region. Gas is about the only thing that we have no control over. So
it all depends now on the little lords and ladies of the green generation. We'll see how this all works out. Yeah. But City Councilman Terry Minke is our guest. By the way, you can always join us on StreamYard. I don't know why I look so white today, but I certainly do. Minke's over there in the shadows a little bit.
Good. That's a good place.
All right. Thanks for being on, Terry.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
3:00 KVFD Fort Dodge. tired of this whole thing. They're just tired of it. I went to a fast. This really doesn't have anything to do with wokeness in general, but kind of on the edge. I went to a fast food restaurant today, and we couldn't go in the dining room. We had to go through the drive-through because I don't know, somebody was sick at the fast food restaurant. Well, there was another guy that came up and said, I'm tired of this, and I said I am too, and we just left. We didn't bother to shop there. So, if you can't go to a restaurant after all this time, I mean, you're wearing us out.
Well, it's looking like destruction of America rather than making America great.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the Chinese are powering forward. In just a couple of years, they'll be stronger than us economically and militarily. We have had it made since the Second World War because we had political figures who were patriotic, who looked after the best interests of the country. Whatever was good for the country, that's the policy they pursued. Apparently now, under this poor old man, really, who keeps screwing things up, he called Satchel Paige a Negro the other day. That's kind of old time thinking. The whole thing then became about Fox News editing what he said, according to MSNBC. But it's these people are firmly committed to green energy, electric cars, all this sort of thing. They're going to screw up our lives big time in Iowa. We depend on ethanol. We depend on biofuels. We depend on biodiesel, and they're determined to wreck it and destroy our lives. So really, what it comes down to in the state of Iowa, I don't know about Georgia, is I have no idea why anyone would vote for a Democrat for any office, because they can't seem to break away from the craziness of their own party.
Well, they want socialism, obviously, and most people with a brain don't want socialism here.
Ed, you said that, and we've talked about it several times. I don't think so. I think they want themselves anointed as some sort of royalty. Socialism implies blanket equality, if you will. And I don't think the Democrats want that at all. I think they really want to be sitting in chairs. I think the vision they have for our country is that they are rulers as there were rulers in the Middle Ages. I mean, look at the Supreme Courts, both at the state and federal level. My God, they're the absolute rulers. We have no recourse. I mean, if 9 lawyers or 7 lawyers say something, we have to abide by it. We have no authority or power over our own lives, our own beliefs, or our own way of talking, really. It's a very frightening time. And unfortunately, the biggest business in the country have aligned with these people. They think this is the way the society is going in the future. And we have to still struggle against that idea, I believe, Ed.
Well, now, what do you think? What do you think in the future? Do you think a lot of people are waking up and we're going to reject this Beijing Biden and his crew?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Democrats are headed for a huge loss in the midterm elections. They're going to take a tremendous pounding. I mean, Barack Obama, after he pushed through Obamacare. Now, this is an interesting thing to note. Barack Obama was elected president. He had majorities in the House and Senate, and he got Obamacare through. Now, the Republicans vowed to overturn it. And in the midterms, Obama lost 64 seats in the House. And they lost 12 seats in the Senate. But the interesting thing is, we still have Obamacare. The Republicans tried to kill it. They took it to the Supreme Court twice, and it's still there. The moral of the story is that once they pass a policy, no matter who it is, Republicans or Democrats, it's tremendously difficult to undo it.
No, I didn't think of it that way, but I agree with you.
So we'll see what happens now. I mean, we have Republicans supporting this infrastructure bill, and frankly, something needed to be done about infrastructure. But when we take a little bit closer look at it, it's mainly focused on green energy, and that's something that will be a disaster for the Midwest. But they don't care. I mean, they simply don't care about our lives.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. the truth doctor, the doctor of truth.
What's happening in Georgia? You know, Georgia is supposed to be kind of a conservative state. It used to be anyway. But we have Stacey Abrams there who still hasn't conceded she lost the governor's race. As a matter of fact, she doggone near won.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that, but I'm worried about cheating and all this stuff. What can they do to cheat? Because I don't think the American people in Georgia are that stupid.
Well, there's been a big, from what I understand in the papers, you'd know more about this. There's been, the demographics keep changing in Georgia, and it's making Georgia a more blue state, which I would never believe would happen in my lifetime, but it seems to have. Do you know anything about that or not?
Not really. All I know is that you're right. It seems to be changing, and I don't exactly know why.
Well, the demographics change throughout the country. It happens, I don't know why either, to be honest with you. I guess there's economists that can tell you that wherever there's, and this is true, I know, wherever there's construction work that pays well, like we used to have on pipelines, that we don't have anymore, because, oh my God, we're all going to burn up. I'm not a climate change denier, but I'm not in favor of wrecking the country to solve the problem.
Well, the thing I don't know much about anymore, because my kids are out of school and everything, but what are they teaching them? I mean, are they teaching them like they did back when we were growing up? No.
Oh, no.
I don't.
No. Trying to guilt white kids. And actually, Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, had a professor for a while who wanted to refer to child molesting as, he wanted to diminish the power of the term child molester or pedophile. And he was going to teach that there was no real moral component to adults who like to have sex with children. I never heard such a disgusting thing in my life. I understand that teacher now, and by the teacher, by the way, was born a woman, but now is transitioning to be a male. It's such a weird world, Ed. The teacher
is such a weird, yes.
The teacher has been temporarily placed on leave. We'll see where that goes.
Oh,
but that's the ultimate goal. That there is no moral component to sexual behavior of any kind. I mean, if we can't protect children from predators, God help us all.
Well, what do you think about this trial, this Kyle Rittenhouse?
Kyle Rittenhouse, he has a solid case, according to some, for self-defense. I don't know what's going to happen. The two people he killed, how do I say this? They were not successful people. They seem to be professional riffraff. That does not mean, that does not mean they should be shot or killed.
Exactly.
I don't know what was in the mother's mind of Kyle Rittenhouse to take her 17-year-old son armed with a high caliber weapon to a place where she had to know that there was violence. I really.
Well, they were shooting there was a lot of shooting going on all around.
That's right. Would you take your 17-year-old son to a place like that and give him a rifle and say, go stand guard at a used car lot? Because I wouldn't.
No. And anybody with half a brain wouldn't do that. You wouldn't think.
Well, yeah. The real question is, does anybody here have half a brain, for God's sake? It resulted in
that's what I'm wondering. And I'll tell you, in these schools and stuff like this, teaching that CRT and all that wokeness and all that bunch of horse manure, I just don't get it.
Well, you have to understand that the liberal professional class really hold the rest of us in contempt. They do. They don't like us at all. They don't like the way that we live. They don't like the way that we think. They don't like the way that we feel. They're happy to pay us less for the type of work we do. They think that's what we're deserving. It's an outrage. It's an absolute outrage. And I think we should take a stand. I do. I think that I don't think I've said that in all the years I've been on the air up here in Fort Dodge. But I think now is the time, if they're going to start indoctrinating our children, is to take a stand.
We got to. I mean, there's no other. That's common sense. You hit it right on the head.
I know several school teachers, and they have a tough job, and I respect them greatly. I don't know where they are. Teachers unions, of course, are pillars of the Democratic Party, and the party is pushing this very much because they really don't like white people. They don't. That's it's really racism stood on its head. The scorn and contempt that the people who were around the 1619 Project or Critical Race Theory. I went out and bought a book called Critical Race Theory: A History, and this was all just an academic concept back in the 1970s. Some radical professors did not believe that our society was changing attitudes on racism fast enough, so they put out this really, really incendiary program and teaching tool called Critical Race Theory. And since the late 70s, of course, it's been picked up by liberals and found to be worthy. And, oh, yes, look, all of a sudden, this is right on. And we have to teach white children that they were the oppressors in our country. Our country is fundamentally a bad country. That's the lesson that's coming out of Critical Race Theory. Our country is fundamentally a bad country. And I don't see it that way.
People don't wake up. I don't know where we're headed.
I don't either, Ed. Of course, sometimes I think I'm just I remember my dad, he cussed my generation. And sometimes I think I'm just an old man out here with a microphone grumbling. And I suppose if somebody would think of me that way, they wouldn't be far off.
Well, I guarantee you those people up there and I will appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that, Ed. Did you get up here and did you get up to Iowa this year or not?
No, I didn't make it. Maybe next year. I'm hoping next year anyway. But I was just thinking we might be better off to take a big old phone book and look down and find about 100 men and some women, in coordination, and have them be senators, and then go and get 435, I think it is, something like that.
U.S. representative, House members,
and just take a pencil and close your eyes and pick somebody out. I think they'd be better than what we got. Now, I love Jim Jordan and several more, but some of these clowns, I'm telling you.
Well, you have 2 Democratic senators down there in Georgia. I never thought I'd see the day. I mean, liberal senators, I should say. Party affiliation really doesn't matter to me that much. If you're it's more like conservative and liberal. And I never thought I'd see the day when Georgia or Alabama would have a couple of liberals for their senators.
Bring back the first Tuesday in November, and everybody votes. And they can vote by mail, but they got to have it in there, and they got to be on the roll book, and they can't come driving in there with suitcases like they did down here in Georgia, underneath the damn gum tables. And then at midnight we had 2 Republicans, and at 4:00 it was over. We had 2 Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Donald Trump didn't help that situation at all. I mean, we got to be fair.
Well,
we got to be honest.
I agree with you.
We got to be honest.
I love Trump, but I know he could have done it a lot better. He could have been more cordial and that, but he blew it.
I got a question for
think
you
about that, but that's true.
Ed. I got a question for you just before we go. The time went really fast. Do you think Donald Trump should run for president in 2024?
Right now, I do, because I haven't seen anybody else that I could get on board with right at this moment. But I look for him to, and maybe he'll calm it down, and who knows? But I don't know. I don't know that he could be elected for sure.
I don't. I really have my doubts. I mean, he can wear you out.
Well, the only thing that I worry about is the Democrats will do anything they can to cheat.
Well,
they will go to the ends of the earth to cheat.
Ed, we're going to have to go, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on the air with us.
Well, I appreciate you, and you keep up the good work, my friend, and we'll touch base again.
Yeah, well, yes, we will.
All the best
definitely.
to you, and all the best to the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones.
Thank you, sir. It's 3:30. This is AM 1400.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at jmike1400.
And we're broadcasting from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters at 612 South 32nd Street in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.ftwater.com. The news and City Councilman Nevin Conrad coming up.
My son is not some statistic.
My daughter's not a headline.
My girl, she's not someone's agenda.
IRA. No better time than the present to protect your future and the future of your family. Call the Oxford Gold Group right now, 833-928-GOLD. They will send you their free guide on investing in gold and silver and answer all of your questions. Protect your money before things get even worse out there. Call the Oxford Gold Group today at 833-928-GOLD. Oxford is here to help you protect your savings and retirement. That's 833-928-GOLD.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
That's right, and we're broadcasting from the Blue Ribbon Studio, Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters Studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 576-6481 or online at www.ftwater.com. Yeah, I'm pleased to welcome to the program once again City Councilman Nevin Conrad. How you doing, Nevin?
I'm good until I realized I have to follow up Menke today.
Yeah, it's always a tough job, isn't it? Well, you used to have to follow Allstott.
Yes.
But, that's back when I was in the mornings. But yeah, Terry's, how should I describe Terry lately? Squirrely. Yeah. No, I'll tell you, if I need some research done, Menke is there. I guess.
Oh, yes.
I understand that he has a undergraduate degree in research. I didn't know such a thing existed, but I did. You don't know either, huh?
I have no idea. Terry, the man of mystery.
Terry, the man of mysteries. No, I know he's from the Sioux Falls area. I think he is from Sioux Falls, as a matter of fact. And yeah, I've known Terry a long time since he came to town. He came to town shortly after I did.
Yep.
I think. Whenever that was, but no, I'll just leave Terry alone, or he'll get vengeance on me somehow. He'll get vengeance. He'll never forget. So we do have a city council meeting on Monday.
Correct.
Will you be there?
Provided that I'm still alive and kicking, I should be there. No plans on missing it anyway.
Do you know what the agenda is?
No, agenda. What's today? Today's Wednesday, so it usually gets published either at the end of the day on Wednesday or Thursday for most. For
the end of the day on Wednesday or Thursday?
Yep. So it should be coming through. If it comes through today, it'll be on there within probably the next hour or so. Otherwise, it will most likely get posted to the website tomorrow.
It's usually on the City of Fort Dodge Facebook page and website, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
You can go on our search, hop on to Google, Fort Dodge City Council, go into the little portal, and it's got links to all of our upcoming agendas, all of our past agendas.
Okay.
All right. If you want to follow along, or you can come on Monday and join us.
You guys don't stream it anymore, do you?
No.
I didn't think
and
so.
I kind of wish we did it for a while. We had Rusty out with Iowa Central, came in with these guys and did the whole crew and they're recording it. And,
that was during the COVID time, wasn't it?
Yep. Well, even before then, we had him come in as
well.
What
happened to that? That was kind of a good idea.
I'm not 100% sure, but I even liked when we did kind of the joint meetings with Liven and Zoom, because you get some people, it's tough to break away from home and give up, because with a council meeting, you don't know if it's going to take 10 minutes, you don't know if it's going to take 2 hours.
Yeah.
So to give up that time, it's a weird kind of gap. So I thought Zoom was really nice for those people that couldn't.
I think so too. Yeah,
it was beneficial. So,
well, like it or not, we have an elderly population.
Mm-hmm.
I blame the evil duo of Batman and Robin over there. That'd be Bemrick and Felix.
That's the most latest nicknames for them.
Yeah, Batman and Robin. Who do you think is Batman?
No comment.
Oh, come on, it's Bemrick. You know that. And Robin is the biggest Robin in the country.
I thought it was Dr. Evil. I thought he was Dr. Evil.
Well, he was Dr. Evil, but, Austin Powers was made a long time ago, and a lot of younger people don't know.
Austin Powers came out, and I want to say I was that 98, maybe?
So, 23 years ago. How old were you?
Elementary school.
Elementary school.
I remember seeing it, and it thought it was funny. And then I didn't watch it for probably 12 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And I watched it here within the last 5 years. And there's a lot of stuff that I caught on to this time around that I definitely didn't catch on to in elementary school.
There's so much going on there. Mike Myers was in his creative peak, and he was just hilarious. And he was always making little references. Yeah, you miss it the first time.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of movies twice or three times.
Yep.
that one I did, just to catch everything. It was always some other crazy thing, and they just all of a sudden here's Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And he does his Will Ferrell thing for just a few minutes, and then he's gone. But it was just like that. It was just great stuff always. Anyway, if you have a question or comment for Councilman Conrad, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. So we have broadband yet? Because I'm ready.
Not
yet.
Yeah. If you want to call in, Mike assured me that we'd be talking about fireworks, automated speed cameras, anything animal related.
Do you think I get kind of locked in? Judges. Don't ever become a judge, Nevin. I'll lose all respect for you. No, that's not true.
No plans on my end.
One of my friends here. What's that?
Quick shout out to my office staff in Humboldt. I told them I'd shout them out.
Okay, all right.
That's my first shout out.
A man I was friends with for a number of years was Alan Good.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was a fine man.
Yep.
And if Alan passed away probably after I had this job for a couple of years, and I would never have taken the position on judges that I have taken if Alan Good were still alive, because he would come to my house if he heard any of that stuff and berate me because he was
that old-fashioned kind of law.
Oh yeah. he would just be furious, but he was a good man and a great judge, I thought. And I admired him, and I was glad he was my friend.
Yeah,
I really do. Did you ever meet him or not? He was probably before your time.
Never met him, but we've had a good track record from this area of judges and justices, and most recently Chief Justice Katie, who
Chief Justice
sorely
Katie.
missed on a personal level, community level, and sorely missed from a judicial system in general standpoint. Just amazing demeanor, everything you look for in a justice, and very sad when he passed. I think it's been a couple of years ago now.
Oh yeah, already. Yeah, a couple of years ago already. But anyway, Councilman Conrad is our guest. 955-1400. What does next year look like for Dodge? What are the big projects? We got to get that mall area.
Yep.
Is that the corridor now? What is the name of that? I keep forgetting.
Corridor Plaza.
Corridor Plaza. Thank you.
Yep, and that's starting to come together. We still. It's high level discussions, and high level means pretty much anything,
high level,
anything above me.
Come on, man, you're there
working with the developer out there as well as some city staff. We've got a whole bunch of potential names out there that have expressed interest in coming in. I know a couple trickled in. Was it last week, the week before? But nothing officially confirmed yet. They haven't told me any names, which is probably a good thing because I'd slip it up. But that's one big thing. Obviously, just general infrastructure. We've invested millions and tens of millions in the time that I've been on council to streets, storm sewers, water, sanitation, all those things.
Yeah,
and it's just a continual investment because, and not that I'm faulting previous governments, but after Hormel and those places left.
Mm-hmm.
You had to spend your money wisely in the 90s and even coming into the early 2000s, and from a city standpoint. And
there was definitely, I think, when Mike McCarville, all due respect, I like Mike. I really think that, and I, of course, was alive and paying attention when Mike was mayor, but he really took a businessman's approach to governing the city.
Mm-hmm.
By that, I mean, after it had been 10 years probably since the packing plants closed, and that changed our town. I know you don't remember the time, but the 80s were a time of, wow, we lost population, we lost a lot of things, but to get to the point, McCarville definitely talked about living within our means, which usually means we're not going to spend much, and we didn't. Of course, I have to say that I think Mike was still mayor, or had just become mayor when we tore up Central Avenue and got new sewer there, which was quite a thing. I didn't realize there were so many coal.
There's still a whole bunch.
Is there still
all across, especially in the alleyways? You'll see a lot of those.
Really, coal chutes.
Yep.
I'm just old enough to remember when I was just a little kid, coal trucks rolling through the neighborhoods.
Not me.
No, I know that was way before your time. No, that was before.
But
your
like I said, you can't fault them because naturally, with that severe of an economic loss, you got to shrink your budgets.
Yeah.
At the city level, not knowing what's the next year going to look like, let alone 5-10 years. And we've been extremely lucky in the 21st century, these first 20-21 years of seeing growth and seeing progress and continuing that reinvestment in ourselves. We're lagging behind because we didn't invest at that time, and probably rightly so. But so we're always kind of steps behind, but we've invested tons, and I know every year come February, March with the thaw, freeze, we'll get those potholes popping back up. And so it's a thing every year, but continue to just long-term plan, identify the worst roads, make sure we get targeted approaches where we can do big areas and get those fixed every year. And even what I call the unsexy projects, which are your underground infrastructure, your sanitary sewer, that sort of things. Those are things we have to invest in. And even we're seeing this year with, the amount of water main breaks we've had this summer and into the fall, just shows that you have to continue to invest in that
infrastructure. Yeah.
And so that's ones that, driving down the street, you're not going to see. But I made a comment, I believe, at the last council meeting. We had a small group meeting at City Hall, and I talked about, the days leading up to RAGBRAI, how I drove the route in just to see, how's everything working in advance. And between PICA, between all the volunteers that we have in our community, it's difficult as someone who lives here because you got your blinders on, you're driving.
Sure, yeah, you do.
Go. But I think it's important to take a step back there and make sure that we cognitively say, well, geez, drive down Central Avenue. They just took the flags down and put up the Christmas decorations.
Right.
Fifth Avenue South, the Crosstown Connector. I mean, just across town, the city looks beautiful right now, and they keep doing it. And again, it's
we still got a lot of street work to do, boy.
Still a lot of that to do. But I mean, the town really it looks good, and it's looking better every year.
Somebody who left 10 years ago wouldn't recognize the place.
No, definitely not. And I mean, Fifth Avenue South, just try. You don't know what town you're in.
I tried to text your sister Nikki, who's a county supervisor, and I'm going to bring this up to you. What I wanted to talk with her about, and is something that Minky and I talked about a little bit earlier, that there's a lot of crime in our town.
Mm-hmm.
We remain Dodge, as people have always kind of perceived it, kind of a tough little town with gunfire and murders,
Yep.
And Minky was saying, and he's correct, that the Des Moines TV stations, especially KCCI, like to run these little things about Fort Dodge, showing what a violent town they are. And they always seem to want to focus on some of the buildings in our town that are run down. Here's Fort Dodge, a grubby place where people shoot at each other for nothing, Yeah. Thank you very much, KCCI, but you can bite this.
that doesn't go very far.
So we kind of talked a little bit about what we can do about that, what we can do about crime in Fort Dodge. Now, of course, Menke and I, being old goats, we started reminiscing about, it's a breakdown of the two-parent family, and on and on and on. But we must be able to find something to do.
Well, I know it ebbs and flows. And the last time we had a stretch kind of like this was right before my last election. And the common threads are still woven here of absent like the Brass Monkey situation that just happened.
Yeah.
Where the guy was right there. He never left, which, I mean.
Was there an arrest?
I believe so.
I haven't heard.
The report.
Anybody know? Was anybody arrested in the Brass Monkey shooting? Because I'm clueless.
The guy was apparently, according to the police report, was still outside when they pulled up. But
his name wasn't Rittenhouse, was it?
No, I don't think he's too focused over here right now. But the other ones, it's a lot of these, young teens, and recently it used to be, even 2 years ago, a random thing where they'd fire at each other. And now it's these teens driving around, and so they're shooting at vehicles now instead of being in, this person has a house party or something going on. And I get comments from people, aren't you scared to live in Fort Dodge? And I say, well, no, not really, because the ones that seem to be shooting at each other seem to have some sort of other situation going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not hanging around with teens driving around in cars at night, so I don't feel I'm putting myself at risk. And it's the same. The most recent one too is they can't get any information from the individual that showed up.
That's
at the
very
ER.
frustrating. We got to get over that.
And
because and what you just mentioned is a racial component. It's black people don't want to cooperate with the police in any way, even if a black person, a relative, has been shot, because they believe they'll take care of themselves.
Well, I think in our case, it transcends the race element too. There's just the stigma of you're not going to snitch, which just perpetuates further violence. I mean, you get a car driving by another car that takes a few shots at it. 2 weeks later, shots go back and forth, just cycles.
A couple of years ago, and I pointed this out to Minky, the house just to the north of us here on 10th Street, 10 o'clock in the morning, somebody does a drive-by on the car and house. I mean, the car is still around. I see it with bullet holes inside.
Yeah.
That was a large caliber weapon, probably a pistol.
Yeah.
But a couple of shots hit the house. And then I believe there was another shooting, same location. I mean, broad daylight. That's brazen.
We had the Fifth Avenue South one from the car they were driving on Fifth Avenue.
Oh,
South
that's
and opened
right.
Fire about a month or so ago, and it's just, I mean, and I've done the defense work. I've done juvenile law, done criminal law, and back in the day when I did more of it, dealt with a lot of these clients, and it's just they've got that teenage invincibility attitude of, this is what I'm going to do. That who's going to stop me? And if
that's the
says
truth,
what happens,
then we have to change our law enforcement policy. And the police, I think, are a little bit intimidated now at this particular period, because there is a strong, at the national level, defund the police movement, which doesn't seem to be going too far when it's put to a popular vote. But there's still that out there. I think Roger Porter's a great guy, and I think Roger and his officers are just the greatest guys. But I think they sometimes, and I can't say this for sure, but they sometimes feel overly cautious when they're involved in situations like I just described.
Well, and I mean, that's kind of the unfortunate tiptoeing of the recent years. It would be very difficult to be in a law enforcement officer's position.
Oh, yes.
On a day, in general, let alone recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tough environment, and it's got to be extremely frustrating for them as well too, where I believe in a lot of these situations, they know who committed the crime.
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
And it's just a matter of they can't get anybody to speak to it
because
be able to have the case.
Because those folks are more afraid of retaliation than they are of the police. I don't know if making the police more fearsome is the answer or not.
Well, and even it's to a degree, it's smart criminals, to be honest. Even when I was doing a lot of juvenile work, we were seeing a lot of not old adults, but young adults in the 18 to 30 range who were running different operations, but were having these young teenagers basically be the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
Because if they get busted for drugs, for any sort of violent acts or anything like that, in most cases, if they're not waived to adult court, I mean, the worst that's going to happen to them in juvenile court is they go to the state training school until they're 18.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to if somebody who's 18, 19-year-old does the same thing, they could be looking at 25 years plus. So they know the system, they know the loopholes, and they were successfully, well, not for the people that got caught, but were successfully kind of running that show for a while, and may still be too.
Yeah, we've seen the Michael Shivers thing down in Pleasant Valley. We've had and Des Moines loves to get a hold of that. Well, and maybe they're right to cover it,
Well, and what some of the more negative TV stations, negative in the way that they portray us frequently, they're not going to report that stabbing, that press release from the day that the individuals were up from the Twin Cities that came down and did the stabbing. They're not going to report that it was people.
What stabbing are you referring to now?
Early November, there was a stabbing. There's a press release today. The,
Okay.
the individuals arrested were from up in the Twin Cities.
No
But
kidding.
it's not going to be, people from the Twin Cities came down and did stabbing at Fort Dodge. It's going to be, again, just there's always going to be people and entities that are going to seek to reinforce that negative Fort Dodge is a violent place stereotype.
Yeah, well,
and it's
sometimes we deserve it,
There are times, but it's important to know, and that's a lot of the conversations I have, is maintain that positivity, showcase what's going right.
We got to go. Councilman Nevin Conrad has been with us. Thank you, Nevin. It's 4
Mike.
o'clock. The news is next.
If you're into cars or just want to learn a thing or two, tune in every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 for the Under the Hood Car Show on AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
This is a Fox News alert, a censure vote in the U.S. House. I'm Lisa Brady.
On this vote, the yeas are 223 and the nays are 207.
The rare rebuke is for Arizona Republican Congressman Paul Gosar being censured and removed from 2 committees for posting an animated video that depicted him killing New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Democrats called it a clear threat to a lawmaker's life. Gosar says that's a mischaracterization, that it was meant to illustrate concerns about the southern border and immigration. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy accuses Democrats of trying to distract from national problems as Congress prepares to vote